Welcome back, everyone. Phoenix 3 here, and I figure I'll just talk about some more stuff that came out in recent news for Pokken Tournament. Now, it's nothing big or anything like that, but basically, what they did was showed us the way the controller is actually going to look for the arcade. Basically, it is the exact same controller that came out in the arcade, except you get to have that exact same experience at home. Now, the thing is, a lot of people aren't really taking to the controller that well. I don't know. It seems like whenever Pokemon wants to do something, people just kind of attack it for no good reasons. Everybody is saying, why would they spend the extra money for this specific controller when they could just use their pro controllers that they have? First off, not everybody has a pro controller. I certainly don't have one. I wasn't going to spend the money for one. I didn't see the need for one. I might pick one up at some point, but really, I don't play my Wii U. And whenever I play my Wii U, I play Super Smash Brothers, which uses this controller here. This here is my old GameCube controller. It still works, but yeah, this is the controller that I use to play the game with. I don't use the gamepad. I don't use the Wiimotes or anything else like that. And for games like Mario, for example, the Wiimote is perfectly usable, as well as the gamepad. Um, but the thing is a lot of people aren't really taking too well to this controller, and I don't see why they wouldn't. I mean, I am looking forward to the Pokken Tournament controller. I'll probably show that here, maybe, or maybe right here, or on wherever it is up on the screen after editing and whatnot. But I like the way the controller looks. People who have played the arcade said the controller feels really good. It's responsive. It fits in your hand nicely. Now I do have pretty big hands, so I hope the controller does feel nice in my hands when I finally get mine. But I do have some criticisms on it. The It has two shoulder buttons that should be on the shoulder of the controller. Obviously, they're on the front. I don't know if they actually do anything with the game. Like I said, I've never played it. Maybe they don't do anything with the game. So they put them there just so they are there on the controller and they work like it, but the game doesn't use them and go from there. But a lot of people aren't really liking that controller, and I don't understand why. A lot of people are saying, well, it's just not needed. And I feel it is needed. I've never really liked the idea of using wireless controllers to play a fighting game, simply because you want your controller to be as responsive as possible. And this controller is wired, so that's going to help a lot, in my opinion, deal with a lot of the problems that I was actually having with fighting games. You know, controller dying or disconnecting because something happened. You know, this isn't going to happen if it's plugged directly into the console. The one thing that people seem to fail to understand is, why should Pokken Tournament be treated any differently than any other fighting game out there? Um, Other fighting games have fight sticks, for example, like Street Fighter has their own fight stick, Tekken has their own fight stick, Mortal Kombat has their own fight stick, for example. And this is only a controller that's only going to be used for maybe one or two games. But in most cases, these fight sticks are built directly for the game that you're playing it for, because it gives you the optimal experience of playing with that game. Now, I can play a fighting game with a controller. That's what I'm used to. Like, I don't use fight sticks. They're really hard for me to play with. But if I had to practice with it, I could do something with them. But I prefer the controller. So seeing that this game is getting a controller and not a fight stick is actually a big deal to me. But when people I don't understand people's double standards when it comes to this type of thing. Like, we look at this right here. This here is the adapter that I bought online, as a matter of fact, because I couldn't find the official one anywhere because people bought them and were selling them for like 50, 60 bucks. But this one here, only used for one game. No other game can use this. This cost me $43, including shipping, just so I could use this so I could play one game. $43 for an extra piece just so I could play one game. because I couldn't find it anywhere else. Something that should have cost me 20 bucks cost me 43. Uh, Do you guys get the double standard here? It's okay when Super Smash Brothers does it, but it's not okay when Pokemon does it for their own game to have their own controller support their own game. I don't get it. The controller's only 25 bucks, which in my opinion is a steal if you ask me, considering most controller or game specific controllers run you 50 plus dollars. I mean, you've got things that go to up to 150 bucks. $150 for a device to play one game. That's absurd. But we get one for Pokken Tournament that's made by a manufacturer that people say is really good, that resembles the arcade version of the controller for use in a home on your home console to play just one game, $25. I would much rather do that than spend $150 for it. I mean, I don't understand the hypocrisy here when it comes to this type of stuff. You know, Call of Duty has extra things you can buy for your controller. They have controllers made just for Call of Duty that cost you $60, $70, just so you can shoot somebody better. But when the Pokemon company wants to release a controller so you can play the game better and fight people better, people take take offense to it. Like, well, why do I have to use this controller? And it goes back to to what I've been saying. It's Nintendo fans, like the people who play Nintendo games, refuse to evolve. I guess they refuse to do anything else that requires them to do more. And I don't get this. I mean, the controller, in my opinion, is good. It's needed for the game, and can help you play the game better. You don't have to have it. I don't know if you can use a pro controller for this game. Maybe you can, maybe you can't. But let's say you can use a pro controller for this game. Then you don't have to buy the controller. You simply don't. But to a person who wants to have an optimal experience with the game, they're probably going to have this controller. And when you start looking at prices, it's like, yeah, the Pro controller is $50, $60, but it can be used for most games. This one only being used for one game. $25 for a wired controller that probably won't give you any issues is good. And also, let's say you want to take this game seriously and play it in tournaments. This controller doesn't have the home button on it, which means you can't accidentally push that button, which means you aren't getting disqualified from a tournament. If you happen to push that button, it'll never be your fault. And that's the reason I like this controller, is that the core buttons, the start button, the select button, all that stuff, it's in the center of the controller and it's really small. That if you want to hit that start button, it almost is never an accident. That's all I'm saying. This here is really good. This controller is made for the competitive scene, and I want people to see it that way. I don't want people to look at it as an extra controller you have to have. You don't have to have the controller. If you do have to have the controller, then it's only 25 bucks, and that price is easily mitigated when most people who bought this had to spend 50, $60 for it. You want to talk about something that you don't need, let's talk about the amiibos. But that's all that I wanted to say on this. I kind of wanted just to get the image out there so you guys can see the way this controller looks, and kind of try to dispel some of the stuff that people are saying about the controller. The controller is good, and people who want to take the game seriously should probably buy it. And if you want to buy it now, I suggest you do before people buy them all up and they become like $60, $70 controllers that you have to buy offhand from somebody else. So, later.